Thank you very much for all of that. Joining us now is Oklahoma Republican Senator James Lankford, a member of the Senate Intel Committee. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning.
How will you all be different than the House Intel Committee?
We're just going to stay focused on what we're doing. We have to work together on this. This is a very serious set of accusations. It's a serious set of charges that are out there, and so we need to be able to resolve it. So we are, as Chairman Burr mentioned in your prior report, we're going to go where the facts lead us and be able to walk through this, but we've got to be able to walk through it together so we have trust. At the end of this, we plan to be able to put out a bipartisan support letter and a report. That means we've got to be able to walk together the whole time.
How will you avoid descending into partisanship as we've seen on the House side?
Oh, there are differences of opinion. When we get behind closed doors, though, we talk those out. We get a chance to share information with each other. The chairman and the vice chairman go to briefings together. When there are those high-level briefings, we do briefings as a committee together. We agree on where we're going to go on interviews, on what key documents that we still need. So we work together on that and stay in a very open process, which means we have to meet a lot, be able to walk through things, but it's the right way to do it.
Well, listen, after the House debacle, many senators, Republican senators even, are calling for an independent commission to investigate this because they say that all the things that have been fraught in the House proves that Congress really cannot do this task.
I don't agree, actually. You can't find 10 independent people in Washington, D.C. As you get a chance to walk through the security clearances and all the things that have to be done to pull up a committee and say these individuals are going to be nonpartisan. It's hard to find nonpartisan people in any of these issues. What I think is best case scenario is to be able to allow the Senate Intelligence, hopefully the House Intelligence Committee can get a chance to bury the axe and they can go through this together as well. But at the end of the day, we have the security clearances, we have the connections, we have access to all the documents. If you start up a new committee, it's going to protract this thing at least 2 years while they just get organized, get clearances, get caught up to where we already are.
Do you have faith that the House will be able to bury the axe?
I have faith that they can, and we'll see if they do. How about that?
Okay, that's a start. Are you investigating different things than what the House said they were investigating? Because the House at times seemed pretty focused on the leaks and the unmasking of sources.
We're going through everything on that, Allison. I'm not going to go through all the details of exactly what we do, but we are independent from the House in our investigation. We're trying to share information with the House as we have it. We're asking them to be able to do the same with us, but we're not conducting it in coordination with the House. We're an independent investigation, and so we're walking through that process as we can. But it's a pretty broad, sweeping piece, not only what the Russians did, that clearly they were engaged in trying to influence our election and destabilize our election, as they have done to many other nations all around, especially Europe. We're also trying to investigate, was there any connections with the Trump campaign? Was there any other conversations? What happened to all the leaks? The leaks are also serious as well. When you walk through a process for any classified document or classified conversation to suddenly be in the public, that's a serious issue as well. And so all these things get collected together to be able to be a part of our investigation. But the center of this is the Russian engagement in our election. We've got to resolve that. The Russians will not stop doing it. We've got to expose what they do, how they do it, and put a stop to it.
We understand that you'll be calling many witnesses, including top aides to President Trump, Carter Page, Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Jared Kushner, for starters. Who are you most interested in talking to?
Well, I would say all of the above as we walk through this. Many people have voluntarily agreed to do that. We're trying to work through a good process to get voluntary agreement where we don't have to push it to involuntary testimony. But we want people to meet with us. So far, people have been eager to be able to meet with us and to go through that testimony time. So some of these will be in public. Many of them will actually be in private because we're dealing with very difficult sources and methods. As President Obama mentioned in December, when he put out his report on the Russian attacks onto our elections and any possible collusion that was out there, he made the statement as well. The American people aren't going to see all sources and methods. There will be questions at the end of it because we're dealing with very classified issues and information and sources. So we've got to get out as much as we can so the American people can see it, but also still protect the future of our intelligence operations.
Yeah. Personally speaking, what's your burning question that you want to ask some of these folks?
Oh, we have to determine, was there any collusion between the campaign and any Russian individuals? I have no doubt the Russians were trying to interfere. What we don't know yet is were any individuals trying to reach back out. We've got to be able to determine that with certainty, and we've got to be able to determine how do we block this in the days ahead, because this will not stop. The Russians, this has been their mode for a long time. They've not done it to the American elections as they did this last time like this ever. And so we've got to find out why they did that and how we can stop it in the future.
Are you surprised that President Trump hasn't been as vocal about all of that as you just have been?
No, he's kind of hit or missed on it a couple times. I've seen several of his press conferences and read some of the famous tweets that are out there. He's frustrated because I think he feels like he wants to get this done and over with and get the investigation finished. Investigations like this take a very long time. We have to take it very seriously, to try to push it as fast as we can. But at the end of it, we can't have someone say, "Did you ask such and such?" and say, "No, we didn't," because then the investigation loses credibility. So that means we've got to really check our stuff as we go through it. I'm sure he's frustrated by that, but at the end of the day, we need to get a solid answer either direction.
I want to ask you about another looming threat, and that is the perennial threat of the government shutdown.
Right.
It sounds as though you all could be headed for a possible government shutdown on or about the time of the president's 100th day in office, about April 28th, over military spending. How are you going to avoid that?
Well, we're working through that over the next 3 weeks. We've got 3 weeks, and then we'll bring these bills to the floor. By the 28th of April, we have to have all funding done at that point or have a continuing resolution. I'd like to have appropriations bills done. I'm on the appropriation committee. There are a lot of important aspects that happen when you do appropriations, not a continuing resolution, which is basically taking last year's budget, changing the dates, and just putting it into this year's. It's not very strategic at all. And so we're trying to be able to actually get through that appropriations process. We've got 3 weeks, hits the floor, and then we'll talk more about it from there. But I don't see a looming shutdown. I do see a deadline, though. Quite frankly, Congress works best when it has a deadline. It hardly works at all when it doesn't.
That's quite a statement and truism. John McCain, Senator John McCain, does not sound quite as optimistic as you do. Let me read to you what he said. He says, "I will not vote for a continuing resolution no matter what the consequences, because passing a continuing resolution destroys the ability of the military to defend this nation, and it puts the lives of the men and women in the military at risk." He won't vote for that budget unless it's the number that he thinks hits the spot.
But this is an ongoing conversation between the House, the Senate, within parties, and within the White House. So this is part of the negotiations that you've seen for a long time as well. There'll be a lot of noise, there'll be a lot of smoke as we work through the process, but we'll get this resolved.
You will also get it resolved, if history is any precedent, at the 11th hour. That seems to be another thing that Congress enjoys doing, waiting until the 11th hour.
11:59, actually.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for that prediction. Senator James Lankford, thanks so much for being here on New Day.
Thanks, Allison.